It started with a package, no return address, just my name scribbled on it in shaky handwriting. Inside, a simple USB stick and a note. Play me. I should have thrown it out. I should have ignored the sinking feeling in my gut that told me something was off. But curiosity got the better of me. I plugged the USB into my old laptop, one that I kept disconnected from any personal information, and what I found was a video. The video showed a dimly lit room, the kind you see in horror movies, with a single chair in the center. On the chair was a guy, mid-30s, gagged and bound. The camera was static, the kind of low quality you expect from a hidden surveillance cam, but the audio was crystal clear. A distorted voice came over a speaker in the room. "Welcome to your new reality." The voice explained the rules. It was simple. The man in the chair was somewhere in my city, and the first clue to his location was hidden in the video itself. I had 48 hours to find him, or he would die. The voice called it real-life murder mystery, but I knew it was no game. This was a sick, twisted reality orchestrated by someone from the dark web. I paused the video, my mind racing. Was this some kind of sick joke? A threat? I tried to convince myself it was a hoax, but the realism of the man's fear, his muffled cries, they were too convincing. I called the police, showed them the video. They took it seriously at first, but after a few hours, they called me back. No leads, no evidence that the video was real, they said. They thought it was a prank, but they warned me to be cautious. I couldn't sleep that night. Every sound in my apartment made me jump, every shadow seemed to move. By morning, I had made up my mind. I would follow the clue from the video, a barely noticeable logo on the man's shirt, a local bar's emblem, and try to end this nightmare. Arriving at the bar, I felt every eye on me, every whisper seemed to be about me. I asked around, showing a still from the video to anyone who would look. Most shrugged, some looked concerned, but no one knew anything, or so they said. I was about to leave when an old man tugged at my sleeve. His eyes were wild, his voice a hushed whisper. "You shouldn't be messing with this," he warned. "Some doors are best left closed." But he saw the resolve in my eyes. With a sigh, he scribbled an address on a piece of napkin and shoved it into my hand. "Be careful," he muttered, disappearing into the crowd. The address led me to an old warehouse on the outskirts of town. The building was decrepit, the air stale with the smell of decay. I pushed open the door, the metal screeching in protest. Inside it was dark, save for a flickering light in the far corner. I walked towards it, my heart pounding in my chest. I found him, the man from the video, still alive but barely. He was bruised, bloodied, his eyes wide with terror. As I approached, he shook his head frantically, eyes darting to a shadow in the corner. That's when I felt it, a cold blade pressing against my throat, a harsh whisper in my ear. "Welcome to the game." The cold blade pressed against my throat was a rude awakening to the harsh reality of the situation. I had become an active participant in this demented game. The raspy breath of my captor fogged against my ear, his voice a sickening whisper. "You're part of it now. Let's see how you fare." He pushed me forward, the blade momentarily withdrawn, and I stumbled towards the man tied to the chair. My heart raced, adrenaline coursing through my veins, fear mixed with a desperate need to survive. The room was dimly lit by a solitary bulb that swung gently overhead, casting long, menacing shadows that seemed to dance on the grimy walls. As I neared the bound man, his eyes pleaded for help, his body slumping in defeat. The sight of him, so helpless and terror-stricken, fueled a newfound resolve within me. I couldn't let this be his end. Not like this. The captor's footsteps echoed in the hollow space as he circled us, the sound of his amusement chilling to the bone. "The next part of your test," he began, his voice distorted through some kind of voice changer, "is to decide his fate. You have two choices." He tossed a rusted, blood-stained knife at my feet. "End his misery now, or unlock him and try your luck escaping together." The moral dilemma tore at me. The knife glinted ominously under the flickering light, its presence a grotesque reminder of the brutality of the choice imposed on me. The man in the chair sobbed quietly, his muffled cries punctuated by the captor's manic laughter echoing around the room. I bent down slowly, my hands shaking as I picked up the knife. The weight of it felt unnatural, a sinister extension of my trembling fingers. With every ounce of courage, I reached for the man's bindings instead, refusing to play by the captor's twisted rules. I saw a flash of surprise, or was it disappointment, in the captor's hidden eyes as I sawed at the ropes. "Interesting choice," the captor hissed, stepping back into the shadows, his presence still looming large. But the game is far from over. Once freed, the man collapsed into my arms, his body racked with pain and relief. We didn't have time to waste. I helped him to his feet, and together we limped towards the only visible exit, the heavy air filled with the stench of mold and despair. We pushed through the door into a narrow, dimly lit hallway lined with doors on either side. It felt like a maze designed to confuse and disorient. Behind each door, I imagined more horrors, more participants in this macabre game. The thought urged us forward, every step fraught with anxiety over what fresh hell might be unleashed upon us. As we neared the end of the hallway, a loud clang sounded behind us. We turned to see bars sliding down at the far end, trapping us. The captor's voice boomed through hidden speakers. "Did you really think it would be that easy? The game must go on." Ahead, the hallway forked, leading to two different paths. Each was shrouded in darkness, their secrets hidden from us. The voice continued, "Choose your path, players. And remember, only one route leads out. The other? Well, let's just say it's a dead end." The choice was a gamble, each path a potential route to freedom, or a trap leading to a more gruesome fate. I looked to my companion, his face pale and drawn in the dim light, and realized that the game had only just begun. Together, we chose the left path, stepping into the unknown, the echo of our captor's laughter ringing in our ears as the darkness swallowed us whole. The path we chose was cloaked in an almost tangible darkness, the only light a flickering bulb far ahead, casting long, erratic shadows that seemed to crawl towards us. Each step felt heavy, the air thick with the mustiness of disuse and decay. My companion leaned heavily on me, his breath shallow and ragged from the exertion and fear. As we moved forward, the silence was oppressive, broken only by our labored breathing and the distant, ever-present sound of dripping water. It was as if the building itself was sweating in anticipation of what was to come. Without warning, a loud crash echoed through the hallway as a door somewhere behind us slammed shut. We both flinched, nearly jumping out of our skins, our nerves frayed to their breaking point. "It's just another mind game," I whispered, more to convince myself than my companion. But the fear had sunk its claws deep. The flickering light ahead began to die, sputtering violently. We hastened our steps, driven by the primal fear of being left in total darkness. Just as we reached the light, it went out, plunging us into an abyss. Panic set in as the darkness seemed to press against us, suffocating, alive with imagined terrors. I fumbled in my pocket for my phone, the modern-day torch, and flicked on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness like a lifeline, revealing a corridor that branched off to the right. The walls here were lined with old, peeling wallpaper, and the floor was littered with debris. We took the turn, hoping it was the path to freedom the captor had spoken of. The new corridor ended at a sturdy metal door. It was slightly ajar, a sliver of light leaking out and slicing the darkness. My heart pounded in my chest as we approached. The possibilities of what lay beyond that door raced through my mind. Could it be the way out, or a trap? I pushed the door open slowly, the creak of its hinges loud in the silent corridor. The room beyond was brightly lit, a stark contrast to the gloom we'd been navigating. Inside, there was a table with two chairs, and on the table, a laptop was open, its screen glowing ominously. Hesitantly, we entered the room. The door slammed shut behind us, automatic locks clicking into place with a finality that made my stomach drop. We were trapped again. The laptop flickered, and then a video began to play. It was the captor, his face still obscured by a distorted digital mask. "Congratulations on making it this far," he sneered. "But the game isn't over yet. This room is your next clue. Everything you need to move forward is here, if you can figure it out." The camera panned around the room, highlighting various oddities. A bookshelf filled with encyclopedias, a wall clock stuck at 3:13, and a series of framed pictures, each depicting different seemingly unrelated scenes. The video ended with a close-up of the laptop screen, a timer counting down. We had 1 hour to solve whatever puzzle this room held or face the consequences. The intensity of the situation was overwhelming, our every sense heightened as we scrambled to piece together the clues. The bookshelf, the clock, the pictures. How did they connect? As we examined the clock, it suddenly struck me. The time, 3:13. Could it be a date? March 13th? I relayed my thoughts to my companion, and we pulled down every book published in March or with a connection to the number 13. It was a desperate, frantic search, time slipping away like sand through our fingers. With mere minutes left, my companion pulled out a dusty tome, its spine cracked and pages yellowed. He flipped it open, and a small metallic key fell out. The key to the door. We rushed to try it, our hands trembling. The key turned in the lock, and the door swung open, leading to yet another dark corridor. We didn't know what awaited us, but we knew we had to continue, each step driven by the hope that each door, each puzzle brought us closer to escape and the nightmare end. But deep down, a gnawing fear whispered that the captor's game was far from over. Emerging from the room with the key's success in our hands felt like a brief victory, but the relief was fleeting as the next corridor stretched ominously before us. The air grew colder, the atmosphere charged with a palpable tension. My companion's grip tightened on my arm, a silent acknowledgement of the mounting dread. This corridor was different, lined with old rusted pipes that groaned and hissed as if the building itself was alive. Water dripped from the ceiling, pooling on the concrete floor, making each step a cautious maneuver to avoid slipping. The echo of our footsteps sounded like whispers bouncing back at us, mocking our attempts to escape. Halfway down, we spotted something new, a series of large metallic doors on either side of the corridor. They were industrial, like the kind you'd see in a freezer or a vault, each adorned with a digital keypad. The first door had a small, grimy window. I peered through, the dim light inside revealing a room filled with old computers and electronic equipment, wires sprawling like veins. My companion nudged me towards the keypad. "Maybe one of them leads out," he murmured, but uncertainty laced his words. Approaching the first door, I wiped the grime off the keypad and pressed a random sequence of numbers, half expecting it to open. Instead, a loud buzzer sounded, and a chilling voice crackled through a speaker above the door. "Wrong guess! Try harder, or suffer the consequences," the voice taunted. I stepped back, heart racing, as we heard a mechanical whir from inside the room. Through the window, I watched in horror as the wires began to move on their own, slithering and twisting as if they were alive. Something about the sight was deeply unsettling, a visceral reminder that this game was unlike anything sane or rational. We moved to the next door, more cautious now. This time, I examined the keypad more closely, noticing a faint pattern of wear on certain keys. "Look, these numbers are more faded," I pointed out. Using this clue, I carefully entered a new combination. The door clicked open, revealing a stark room, empty except for a single chair in the center. Tied to the chair was another person, a woman, her head hanging low. As we approached, she lifted her head, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and relief. "Please, get me out," she whispered hoarsely. We quickly untied her, helping her to stand. She was weak, barely able to walk, but determined. "How did you end up here?" I asked, as we supported her down the corridor. She shivered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I received a package, like you, I think.
I thought it was a sick joke until they took me from my home. Her story echoed ours, a grim pattern that added layers to the nightmare we were trapped in. With no time to waste, we continued down the corridor, now 3 of us clinging to the hope of escape. The corridor ended abruptly at a heavy steel door, no keypad in sight, only a large wheel in the center, like the kind on a submarine. With our combined strength, we turned the wheel, the door creaking open to reveal not the freedom we sought, but another room, larger than the others, its walls lined with monitors.
Each screen flickered with different scenes. Some showed other parts of the building, some displayed static, and one, chillingly, showed the outside of the building, freedom just beyond reach, but monitored, controlled. In the center of the room, a large console was set up, buttons blinking ominously. As we entered, the door slammed shut behind us, the familiar voice laughing through a speaker. "Welcome to the heart of the game. You've done well to get this far, but it's not over yet." The monitors flickered and then synchronized, showing a countdown. "Your final test," the voice said. "Survive until the clock runs out and you're free. Fail, and well, the consequences are quite permanent." Trapped in the control room, surrounded by the buzzing of monitors and the ticking of the countdown, we faced our final challenge, the weight of our captor's twisted game bearing down on us, each second ticking by with agonizing slowness. The control room became our cage, the ticking of the countdown our relentless tormentor. As the numbers on the screen decreased, the tension among us built to an unbearable level. Every tick was a reminder of the game's stakes: win and gain freedom, lose and face a fate crafted by a psychopath. Our new companion, the woman we had just freed, seemed to regain a bit of her strength, her eyes scanning the room for anything that might help us. "There has to be a way to stop this," she muttered, more to herself than to us. I joined her in examining the console, my fingers hovering over the array of buttons and switches, afraid that one wrong move could end everything prematurely. Each button was unmarked, the purpose mysterious and intimidating. My companion, who had been silently observing the monitors, suddenly pointed to one. "Look, that's an exterior camera. It's showing the gate. There's a security detail outside." It was a glimmer of hope, proof that there was indeed a way out, that this nightmare had a tangible ending. We devised a plan quickly. The woman would monitor the cameras, giving us updates on any outside movement, while my original companion and I would work on the console, attempting to hack the countdown or find a way to open the gates remotely. I focused on the console, my mind racing as I tried combinations of button presses, switches toggling back and forth. Minutes passed like hours, the countdown nearing its critical end. Sweat beaded on my forehead, my hands shaky with the intensity of the moment. Then, a small beep sounded from the console, different from the ominous ticking. A green light flickered on, and on one of the monitors, the gate's locks disengaged. "I did something right," I exclaimed, a surge of adrenaline pumping through my veins. We rushed to the door of the control room, the woman now supporting herself against the wall as she moved. I grabbed the wheel, turning it with all the strength I had left, and the door groaned open. The hallway to freedom was dimly lit, the exit sign a beacon in the oppressive darkness. We moved as fast as our tired bodies would allow, the sound of our footsteps echoing in the empty building. Behind us, the control room erupted in a cacophony of alarms, our tampering finally noticed by whoever, or whatever, was orchestrating this game. As we neared the gate, we saw the security personnel mobilizing, their figures blurry through the rain-soaked windows. It was now or never. Bursting through the final door, we emerged into the cold night air, the rain a harsh contrast to the stale air we had been breathing. The security didn't expect us to come out so abruptly, and their moment of surprise was all we needed. We ran, the complex's large, fenced perimeter looming ahead. The fence was topped with barbed wire, but at this point, physical pain was irrelevant compared to the psychological torment we had endured. We climbed, the sharp edges biting into our hands, but freedom was intoxicating, driving us forward. As we dropped down on the other side, sirens wailed in the distance, a sound that once would have signaled danger, but now promised rescue. Soaked, injured, but alive, we huddled together in the shadows, watching as police cars and ambulances converged on the facility. It was over. The game was finally over. In the days that followed, our story would be told and retold, a chilling reminder of the dangers lurking in the unseen corners of the internet. But for us, the survivors of the dark web's most twisted game, life would never be the same. We had looked into the abyss, played the game set by a madman, and emerged not victorious but scarred, forever wary of the shadows within our digital world.